Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. Okay, so I was supposed to record this earlier, but I got sidetracked watching the Megalodon Shark movie with Jason Statham. I love that movie. That movie is amazing. So we are picking up with the Batman one-shot, and I want to test the waters here. With the exception of like Shazam and Green Lantern to a degree because it's referenced, not all the one-shots are important, but they are optional. They're just kind of here for us to cover, right? Now, by the time this video goes live, I will already be out of town for Valentine's Day, so I won't really know whether or not you guys care about these tie-ins until I get back from Valentine's Day weekend. Myself and Mariah are going out to get some food, and we're going to go hang out at Great Wolf Lodge in Cincinnati. We're gonna have an amazing time. So, this picks up kind of with Batman racing off to Gotham to do his own thing. And the fact is, he's actually kind of been here for a little while. He's been here for a few days. And initially he meets up with Commissioner Gordon. Now, for those of you guys who are going to be reading DC Comics or who choose to jump into DC Comics because of this video or any of the other Darkseid War videos that I've done, this took place during a branding initiative called DCU, where there really was no continuity. It wasn't like you read Batman comics, you read Darkseid War, you read Superman, and it all kind of fits into a time frame. So like you read one comic and then another and then another. Instead, it was just kind of read whatever you want. And so the result is that if you go and you read the actual Batman solo series, at the time, Commissioner Gordon's Batman. But when you read this, Commissioner Gordon is just Commissioner Gordon. It was really frustrating for a lot of us who were continuity hounds. It was really sort of driving us insane. But for the average person, I think it was moderately successful. All in all, they ended up canceling it because I think most everybody hated it. But the important thing here is that Commissioner Gordon is getting kind of pissy. And the reason why is because what Batman's been doing in the city of Gotham is he's basically just been leading to a series of events whereby criminals who were handed over to the police department have to be released. And the reason why is because of what we talked about in the Darkseid War video, where Batman is basically processing pre-crime, right? Which is to say Batman is looking at what people's intentions are using the Mobius chair and then essentially snatching them up and handing them over to the cops before they actually do anything. The reality is that the justice system cannot arrest you for something that it thinks you might do if there's no tangible evidence to link you to that particular action, right? So, I mean, you could have all kinds of stuff in your car and there's no real way for them to link you to the crime. Now, there are laws that kind of deal with that. For example, like if you're in possession of any kind of drug paraphernalia and you've got it wrapped up, so say for example you have like a pound of weed and then you've got it packaged in like 1 ounce baggies just for yourself, they can arrest you for possession with intent to distribute, right? Because you could potentially distribute it. It's kind of a nonsense law and there's no reason weed should be illegal in the first place, but that's just kind of the nature of how some of those laws work. But for Batman's case, he's handing people over who he's used the Mobius chair to determine are going to be doing things like robbing people, murdering other people, things like that. But because the nature of laws is that they're designed to be reactionary, which is to say we stop you or we arrest you after you've done a thing, as opposed to being something that happens before you do a thing, there's nothing that the Justice Department can really do, right? There's nothing that like, you know, that the police can actually do here. So they just got to let all these guys go. And it's kind of irritating Commissioner Gordon to a degree, but more so than that, it's Batman. Because ever since Batman got on the Mobius chair, he's become very kind of, you know, haha, I know everything. And to a degree, he was always kind of that way. He was always kind of like, you know, if you can keep up with me, then it's just, you know, thank God for small favors. You know, it was always that kind of thing. But he was never really one of those where he just seems so disconnected from everything going on, right? And that's really how he seems in the Mobius chair. He just seems so incredibly disconnected. And he almost kind of talks about the chair as if it's a thing that he has to have. And he even refers to people as the sense that like there's just a baseline nature to all human beings that cannot be altered, base instincts. There are people out there that have a base instinct to kill, a base instinct to rob, that kind of a thing. It's almost Batman, to the small degree that he did favor the possibility of people being redeemed, has even really just lost that. It's just kind of like people do bad things and I'm just catching them before they do. It's a very cynical perspective. But here's a funny thing about this. The way that Batman handles a lot of these situations are actually awesome. So here's one instance, right? There's these guys who are going to be heading to this place called the Alpha Club, and they intend to rob the place. Ultimately, they got a whole bunch of guns, so you know most likely somebody was going to get shot. But Batman basically uses the Mobius chair and then teleports them to the southern tip of the Arctic Circle, and is like, you're about 50 miles away from a research station here. Just be aware, you are surrounded by mountains. Not the biggest deal. Doesn't usually get down to -40, but it is currently -2. So if you start burning the different things in your car, using the gunpowder and your bullets, then you can probably keep yourself warm. There's a ship that's on its way here because it's just kind of making its way through the ice. They don't know you're here, but you know, you guys will stumble upon each other and maybe they'll find a way to save you. But while you're waiting on them to arrive, praying to God that you actually live, you can think about your actions and just leaves. Just leaves. He's just like, bye, and then just, you know, okay, bye, and then just takes off, and that's it. He just leaves him there. Following that, he goes to another place where there's a guy named Mr. Phillips, but he actually breaks into his ex-wife's apartment with a knife in hand, essentially drunk. And the whole thing is that he's pissed off because after everything he had done, his wife had basically left him and divorced him. The reality is that he was beating her, and so it's not as though she left him because he was down on his luck, because he was running into some problems on the job, and she's like, you're no measure of a man at all, you know, and then just took off to find greener pastures. It's because he was beaten on her, right? So Batman ends up snatching this guy up and then takes him to Themyscira. Now, initially, the women on Themyscira, the Amazons, are just like, you're not supposed to be here. You can't just come here whenever you want. You can't just walk into this place. And they're like, who is this guy? And he's like, well, this guy's name is Mr. Phillips, and he likes to beat his women. And he intended to murder his ex-wife with the knife that he has in his hand before I intervened. And so I have no intention of leaving him here, but I felt like spending a little while here will help change his view on women. And they're like, yeah, it will. So, you know, the Themysciras are going to help him come to understand his place in the bigger picture. But that's kind of what happens here. Now, Batman in turn makes things personal, right? He makes things very, very personal here. And what he does is he goes to Crime Alley. And notice this, being the god of knowledge, having all this knowledge at his fingertips, knowing everything that's going on across the universe, Batman could deal with all the universe's problems. Instead, he really just kind of reduces down to dealing with his own, because he's exactly what we've always said he was. He's a sad little boy crying because his mommy and daddy got shot. Now, it doesn't make him any less of a person because of that. That's just the core nature of Batman, their deaths at the hands of Joe Chill. And so what he does is he actually teleports directly to where Joe Chill's at in Gotham State Penitentiary. Now, Joe Chill is not really serving a life sentence. He was serving a sentence, but he always keeps getting shot down by the parole board. So he is more or less serving a life sentence, and he always will, because he essentially murdered people who are rich and powerful. And as we know, it usually carries a heavier sentence when you murder those individuals who have money and are influential. And so the result of this is that the conversation Bruce has with Joe Chill is one of wrath and vengeance, right? And that's how we kind of know the Mobius chair's corrupting him. Because when you look at Batman, whenever he's dealing with situations like this, especially when he's usually dealing with criminals, the element of using fear is only done insofar as to throw them off guard, or to use it as a way to kind of terrify them out of their actions, or something along those lines, right? It's designed to be something that sort of messes with people's heads, right? It's mind games, shadow games, that kind of thing. He never really uses fear for the actual purpose of just terrorizing a person, right? Just personal vengeance. He never really uses it for that way, but that's what he's doing with Joe Chill. He's absolutely terrorizing this guy. Now, some could say, and you really could argue, he's got a right to do this, but the crazy thing is that he actually teleports him directly to Crime Alley, to the place where the crime was committed, and Joe Chill almost kind of gets excited about what was going on. He's like, yeah, man, you know, I killed Gotham's movers and shakers, and that's why I keep serving a life sentence. You know, I put a bullet in these two super rich people. He's like, in that moment, I was the most powerful I ever was. I had the power of life and death. I decide who lives and who dies. You know, and then he starts talking about Bruce Wayne. He's like, you know, I bet that little kid, he had nightmares and everything. You know, I was that little kid's boogeyman, right? This whole idea that he felt like God, right? He felt like God insofar as he could snuff out the lives of others, or determine or decide that they could live, and then became like this specter that just haunted the life of the 8-year-old boy who survived. And one of the things that he talks about here is that when Batman says, like, you know, give me a number, like, I know the Waynes weren't the first ones. I know they weren't the only ones that you killed. Give me a number. He says 40, that he's killed 40 people because of the fact that it made him feel more empowered. Now, he did this at the request of others. He did it of his own volition, but regardless, it satisfied a personal desire for him. And that's the crazy thing, is because when Bruce reduces it down and says, I'm not really here for the 38 other people that you killed. I don't really care about them. I care about the 2 people you killed here that night in Crime Alley. The response to Joe Chill is, why? Like, why do you care about the 2 people that I killed here in Crime Alley? Why would Batman be concerned about that? And that's when Bruce reveals his identity and says, because I'm Bruce Wayne, right? Like, and that immediately scares the hell out of Joe Chill, right? Absolutely scares the heck out of him, because he's like, I'm all grown up, right? The first words that you have when you come back to this place is, you wish you would kill the little kid who was there so that nobody would have been able to trace you to the crime and you would have gotten away scot-free. That's the first thing you do. But like, I'm your boogeyman now. You have to accept the fact that now you're the one who created the Batman. I'm here because of you. I'm here because you killed my parents. And so I can make your life a nightmare in this place, Joe Chill. I can can let word reach the ears of all the prisoners around here who were here because of Batman that you're the reason he exists. If everybody here finds out you're the one who created Batman by committing a murder in Crime Alley, they're all gonna come for you. They can't get to me, Batman, but they can get to you, right? So if they can't kill me, they'll do the next best thing, and they'll make your life a living hell in every conceivable way, and in some ways that you can't even imagine. So I just want you to know, right? That's literally the whole thing. He wants Joe Chill to know the fact that Joe Chill created Batman. Joe Chill is the reason that Batman exists. It's all about just intimidation, and it's all about just terrorizing this guy. And of course, he also goes on to say, like, you will never tell anybody who I am. You will never give anybody my identity. If you will, I will make sure that you die in this place. And that's really what would happen. Like Batman, if Batman told people that Joe Chill created Batman, they would kill Joe Chill. And so in a roundabout way, maybe not in so many words, Batman's like, I will have you killed in this place. That's basically what he's saying. Now, of course, once he gets back directly to the Batcave, and you have Alfred there waiting on, with drinks and that kind of a thing, and dinner to kind of help him get together, Batman is basically bleeding from the ears and the nose and the mouth. And the reason why is because the chair is one of these things where it doesn't necessarily have a mind of its own, but processing all that information kind of creates a bond or a link between the person and the chair. And so if you start using the Mobius chair for means that it wasn't meant to be used for, personal gratification, different things like that, essentially defying the will of the chair, then it'll in turn cause problems. Now, the other thing this kind of hit at here is that there almost seems to be a parasitic relationship here, in the sense that if it was symbiotic, Batman gains something, the chair gains something, and then they just both kind of go forward. But Batman's struggling the way that he is, bleeding the way that he is. He goes as far as to say that he's sustained by the chair, right? The chair feeds, it basically keeps him nourished. He doesn't have any need for food or water or anything along those lines. That it does satisfy a need of the chair in that way, but it's taking a toll on Bruce Wayne. It's killing it, in effect, right? Because while Bruce Wayne may very well be sustained, the chair itself almost seems to be sucking the life out of him. And that seems to be one of the reasons why only new gods, only somebody like Metron or a person like that who is, by all standards of measurement, immortal in comparison to whatever means of destruction are available out there, right? He's not truly indestructible. He can be killed, but it's very, very difficult to do. But because you have to have a kind of physiology to be able to withstand the rigors of the chair, that it wasn't really meant for mortal men. And so because of that, it's taking the toll on Batman. Now, Alfred really kind of asks him, like, why don't you just leave the chair? The response of Bruce is, well, I can leave it anytime I want to. Notice this, it's almost like a drug or like an addiction of some kind, right? Bruce believes he has to have the chair. He needs the chair. And so there's almost kind of a mental link in that way. He talks like an addict. Well, I can quit anytime I want. I can quit drugs anytime I want. I can stop drinking anytime I want. I can quit gambling anytime I want. I got 10 to 1 odds. I can stop tomorrow. It's that kind of a thing. But ultimately, he just doesn't acquiesce. He just stays on the chair. Now, there almost seems to be a kind of physical link in the sense that Batman cannot actually get up. The chair's keeping him there, but we don't really get enough information to know whether or not that's the case. It just kind of seems to be. He tries to stand up and he can't really do it, almost as if he is attempting to get himself out of the chair, but doesn't actually want to leave, right? Maybe, not faking it or anything like that, but it's just a desire to stay in the chair and to maintain all that information. And so ultimately he says, like, me being in this chair is really what's best for Gotham. Me having this at my disposal, this is the best thing for us, because now I can do a better job of, one, keeping Gotham under control, but two, I can focus on the one thing that has plagued me ever since I became Batman. The one guy that I've never been able to figure out, the person whose entire existence is as much an enigma to me as it is seemingly everybody else. His whole focal point, now that he has this knowledge with regards to the Mobius chair, is to figure out a way to understand who the Joker is, where he came from, and what his whole story's about. Now, for those of you guys who want to continue off from where this whole idea about the Jokers continues, we have the story, The Three Jokers, down in the description. You can watch that, because that'll actually pick up immediately after this. Not directly, it wasn't really written until about 5 years after this story was published, but in terms of chronology and in terms of fitting into what's going on with Batman right now, it fits in later, but it basically comes in. So feel free to check that out if you guys want to see what happens next with the Three Jokers story and all that. But with that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.